Good morning, Kumlan and Abakamora. Today's daf is daf Mem Aleph. But we are up to Mem Aleph Amud Beis, in the middle of the page. We're still continuing to learn all about Chazakas, and we just concluded the story with Rav Kahana and Rav Yehuda, and we're up to right in the middle of the page. The last word of the line is Ahu. And this Ahu Gavra, there was this person, Dor Bekashta. He lived in a city called, or a town called Kashta. Be'iliosa, he lived upstairs in the attic. Arbashni, 4 years. And for some reason or another, the person who lived downstairs had no idea, unless he wasn't there, he was away somewhere. Also, Mara de Besa, the owner of the house came, Ashke, and he found him. 4 years later. My boy is behind Besa. What are you doing in my house? What are you doing in my house? So we're up to him, Aleph and Beis, right in the middle of the page. This guy was squatting in somebody's upstairs for 4 years, and the owner downstairs didn't have a clue until he came to him one day and said, "What are you doing in my house?" I bought it from that person. The Zavna Minach that bought it from you. Now, do you know for a fact that that person bought it from him? No. But you're tiny. Because we learned before you need a chazaka with a tiny. I have a tiny. I bought it from someone else who told me he bought it from you, and I have a chazaka of 3 years, 4 years. Also, the Kamed Rabchia, where it came from Rabchia, Amalei said to him, "Look, if you have evidence that the person who sold it to you actually lived in that house, even one day he lived there as if he owned it, then I will then transfer it into your hand, and that means you have a chazaka with a taina. I'll pass it to you. But if you have no evidence that the person sold to you ever owned this property, then how can I give it to you? Okay, I believe you. You bought it from a person, but so what? We know for a fact that the person who's ma'ader is complaining once upon a time owned the property. You're telling me a mice he bought it from somebody else. Maybe he sold the Brooklyn Bridge. How do we know? Amar Rav says, I was sitting there before my uncle called Chavivi, beloved, and I said to him, "Why a whole day? People flip properties in 5 minutes. And don't people flip properties in 5 minutes? Even if you just saw them, if you saw them for an hour there, it should be enough." And Rabbi completely ignored me. I guess it's totally unrealistic to flip a property within an hour. It takes a little bit of time to flip a property. The Chazisha died, but I also noticed, says Rav, what happens if the guy would have said, I've been here for 4 years, I bought it from somebody, but Kamoy de Dizovna. I saw you selling him. Sorry? Yeah, so he is chazaka with a taina. The taina is that he bought it, and I saw for a fact he's believed. Why is he believed? To aid him. I believed because he has a migui. The boy, if he wanted to, he could have said, if he would have said, I bought it from you. That's my taina. And I am here 4 years of chazaka, and I lost my shtar, and blah, 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 he didn't say anything. So that would have been believed. So he has a migui. So big machleik is a shaynim. So the case that Rav says he would have been believed is if he would have said, I saw you sell the property to the person, to the vendor, to my vendor. What happens if he would have said, I saw the vendor living there for 1 day? If he would have said it, now he wouldn't have brought agent. What would be the din then? So big machleik is a shaynim. The other shaynim say yes. Well, the same migui that he has, that he says, I saw you selling it to him, the same he has, I saw you, what do you call it? I saw him live there 1 day, and then Migui, he could have said, I bought it directly from you. Others say that lav dafka, because if so, the Gemara is talking about, why didn't the Gemara say that? The Gemara is talking about bring me aides that he's there for 1 day, and then Rav said, but I saw from him that if I said I saw you sell to him, should have said, in the context of the Gemara, but I'm the one who saw him living 1 day. He doesn't say that. And then the Hachrein tried to explain, and some of the Shem as well, all kinds of things. Says the Gemara further, Amar says, Rabbi, makes sense like Rabchia that if you bring Eidim and live there for 1 day, that's enough evidence that the person was a genuine vendor. Diktoni, it says, this is Rabbi's Raya. It says haba mishum. It says haba mishum yerusha. If somebody comes to claim that I yashin this property from my father, ain't it tzarich taina. He doesn't need to make a taina because we said before we become the advocates. And not tanin and the yiddish between lekech. We become the advocates.
Do we have to establish that his father wants owned it?
Sorry.
Do we have to establish that his father owned it?
No. That's what we do. No, then we throw the burden of proof on the other guy that the father didn't own it. One of the reasons why they say that this miga I just told you a minute ago doesn't work is because we need a second step. A miga works if it's only one step. Here, the miga is he could that he said. What did he say? His taina was that I bought it from this guy, and then we have to come in and he said, "What? I saw him live there one day." He said, "I saw him live there one day." Then we have to step in and say, that's not what you want to have with a proof. So then we have to be toying the business to say, well, he lived there one day, looks like the Bava Basra. That's something else. So because you need two steps in his taina, the migu knows when he says, I saw you sell to him, there's no other steps. That's it, Fartik. You saw that your vendor bought it from that guy. So we don't have to step in and say anything. You have a taina, a chazaka with a taina, we believe you. But if you say, I saw him live there one day, what does that mean? So then the Bezin has to step in and say, well, but we're going to tie China. One day means that he's a vendor. Because you need, in your tiny, you need two steps. Therefore, we don't apply that miga. Miga is not good enough then. So over here, we said before, if somebody says Yashnit, then we tie on behalf of the person that was waiters to him, on behalf of his father, that his father probably bought it legally. He was there because he has a chazak, he's there for 3 years and so on. So it sounds like kind of the boy. He doesn't have to have a taina that my father bought it. Yeah, he doesn't need a taina. That's what. But he has to bring Adim that his father lived there for one day. He has to bring the Adim his father lived. He doesn't bring a taina his father bought it. He just has to bring a ride that his father lived there for one day. He doesn't have to add the extra line that the leker did, and he bought it, and he told me he bought it from you. That's what he said, right? I bought it from him, and he told me he bought it from you, and I have to bring Adim that he lived there for one day. When it comes to a Yerusha, all you have to say is Ayasha from my father, and he brings a raya that he yasha that his father lived there for one day. That's it. The tiny that his father bought it. We are non taninin. We're going to tiny on behalf of the Yerush. Big Machik is showing you whether he has to bring a raya that he's actually the Yerush, or it doesn't have to do that either. Just I'm the Yerush and that's it. It sounds like tiny leboy haraya boy. It sounds like, but a raya he does need. He lived there for one day. That I said, that you have to bring proof. Just because he said in the event to bring a raya, he lived there for one day. So even if halacha, but your raya is a shvach raya. Why is it a shvach raya? But you raya boy with a tiny boy. Maybe you don't need anything. Because it says you don't need you don't have to bring a raya. It doesn't mean that when it says there that you don't need a taina. You're medayik, but a raya you do. No, maybe you don't need a taina. You don't need anything. Oh, raya, your diak is lav dafke noch, maybe boy said, and even if you're right. That you need by a geni raya shiny lekeach very different. The loishadi zuzi berdai. Lekeach would not throw away money for nothing. So even if you say by a yodish that you have to bring a raya that you lived there for one day, but maybe a lekeach doesn't, because lekeach would not have spent his money without first doing research and making sure that this guy who's selling you the property actually had a right to sell you the property. So we can rely on that he did his research, and if he bought it and he spent money on it, he lived there for a day, whatever it is. So therefore, we don't have to go any further. Sorry?
I was just living there for a day. Do we have to
together? It's coupled
there out Palabos.
How else do they? We'll see in a second. We'll see in a second. Yeah, but he was talking about 3 years later. It's that together with 3 years. If that's the chazak, you're right. It's nothing. You know, he gave him for a month's room, like Airbnb. The mitigation is actually interesting. The mitigation says because the lekeach does his research, then definitely the lekeach has to bring Adim. Maybe only lekeach has to bring Adim that Dorbo Yemech. Because he did research, he's able to bring Adim. What do you want from the Yiddish? His father died 3 years ago. He knows that his father lived there. I mean, you want to find Adim? He's a kid. He doesn't know anything what's going on. Anyway, the Gemara says, like Yemi said, how far do you go? You boil or need it by my. What about he didn't see him live there, but you saw him, let's say, doing something that looks like a balabas. He was measuring the property, the length, the width, and to see whether he can rebuild or do whatever he wants on the property. Is that enough? Or by he, that's enough. That's sufficient to show that you're the balabas for a day. Rabbi says no. Ovid inish to say out of people go measure property. They look at a house for an auction, but they don't end up buying it. So that's not good enough. But all the Rishonim say, but even according to Rabbi, if you did something with property, you fixed the door, you did something about balabatischkeit, then that's good enough. Says when the Shlosh Lukuchas in 3 Lukuchas bought a property, and what do you mean 3 Lukuchas? Reuven bought a property from the original owner. So he claims that's a claim. He lived there for a year, then he sold it to Shimon for a year, then Shimon sold to Levi for a year. So they say, well, combine the 3 years together with the taina that the Reuven, the original guy, bought it from Balabas, so we have a chazaka. The Balabas says, because every year you changed, it told me that you guys don't really, you don't really own the land. Nobody has a 3-year chazaka, so that's why I wasn't moichet. Who do we believe? Shlosh Lukuchas, so the Gemara mitzdarfin, they combine. Provided with kulam b'shtar. When it combines, if there was a shtar, Reuben when he sold to Shimon, it wasn't just with witnesses. He had a shtar, and Shimon sold with the shtar. Why? Because the shtar has a koil. So the balabas can't say, "Oh, I thought you guys ran away because you didn't have a chazak. You knew it wasn't your land." But you know they sold it. You don't sell a property that's not yours. You should have been meicha. But if it was sold with Adim, then the balabas can say, "I didn't know that it was sold. I just saw Reuben live there for a year. Then I saw Shimon live there for a year, and Levi told me that none of you really believe that you own the property. So why should I be meicha?" So it had to be the shtar. So the mem that comes out from here, the Savar Ashtad is a koil, but it's a koil. Some of them the Ashtad has a koil, but Adim don't have a koil. And it's a question of what Rav said. Rav himself, same Rav said, Adim. If Reuven sells Shimon a property with Adim and he gives him an achrai, he says to him, if the field ever gets taken from you, I'm going to reimburse you and so on. So anybody who bought a property post that can lose the field. If Shimon loses the field that he bought from Reuven, then Levi, who bought it afterwards, will lose his property because Shimon will take it. Then he has to go back to Reuven and collect his money. It's Goyvel Chasim Shabbatim. What's going on there? Since it was sold with Adim, Levi, the only reason why we know that you say the Lukuchas have to lose their property if it was a loan with a shtar. So he should have done his research and he would have found out that there's already a lien on this property before he bought it. But if it's sold with Adim, the mashal, what do you call it? According to you, Rav, the first version of Rav, he couldn't have known that he didn't know that this property was sold, so why should he lose his property? Yet the same Rav said that even though Adim supposedly have no crow, you lose your property. What's the shot? So the Lukuchas had to do research. If he would have done this proper research, he would have heard from Adim. Because Adim make a coil, but they don't generate the same level of coil as a shtar. A shtar is much more formal. Everybody knows about it. It takes time. There's a safer involved. There's a whole bunch of people involved. Comes to Aiden, they talk. Some people forget it. It makes noise, but not as much. So when it comes to you're spending money, you should have done your research properly. So the Rav Taka say this. Now what? I'm going back to this very thing you just brought in right now. That if you sell a property with Adim, no shtar, you can actually collect Mechas Shabadim. There's a din by a law, but man, we learned the very end of the Sechta, the whole concept, even though Lechayr doesn't do this, about Shibuda Deraisa, Shibuda Lav Deraisa. Famous theory between Kedushin and Bava Basra. If you hold Shibuda Lav Deraisa, which means that if I lend you money, there's no lien on the property from the Torah. It's only the Rabbanan that said it, because otherwise nobody's going to lend money. Because the Ilah doesn't love him. I need security, so it's only midrabanan, and therefore they say only milva b'shtar. When does Rabbanan say by a shtar? By Adim, it's your own fault. If you Taka wanted security, why don't you take it more seriously and write a document and just have Adim? And because the din is that a malva b'Adim ain't sort of a of Adim, sort of thing. You don't have to pay back with Adim. So you took risks. We don't have to stand and defend people who take risks, but at shtar we do. But the raya we're going to bring here now is from the Yoshin. Because by Yoshin, there's no need with those anything else. It says, "Hamal is chaveda b'shtar." You lend the b'shtar, great b'chas shabbat. The Eidim, but it's cool. If you lend with the Eidim, you have no right to go to the chas shabbat. You can only collect from the chas of nechayim. I mean, the unencumbered properties that are there, or the properties that are still with the borrower himself. So what do you tell me, Mice, if you sell a property just with Eidim and he loses it, he can go back to the chas shabbatim, and by a loan, we say he can't if it's only with Eidim. He argues on this Mishnah. We don't use it that often. We only use it as a last resort. Interesting. There's a taste somewhere, I can't remember. Rabbi Yechon also was a Tanu, I think, but I can't remember the taste of this. That Rabbi Yechon also was a Tanu Pali, but we never used that by Rabbi Yechon. Think about Rabbi Shmuel, Damit Tabai, they both say, so Rab was a transition from Mishnah to Gemara in Babel, and Rabbi Yechon was a transition of Mishnah to Babel, and Mishnah to Gemara in Yisrael. But Rabbi Shmuel was right. Rabbi Shmuel will say together, Mil va'apeh, Einu goyve loymen hayoshim v'loymen hakuchas. Rabbi Shmuel both say that a mil va'apeh cannot collect from yoshim. So Rabbi himself said it. So what's by the sale of a property? Tell me you could go mishibad, me you can. What's the chiluk? So the Gemara, milva people dafka don't want people to know that I borrowed money, because once people know you borrowed money and then you put your house on the market to sell, then everyone thinks right away, they speculate, this guy's desperate, he can't repay his loan, so they're not going to give him the full price. So he doesn't want people to know that he's a borrower. So therefore over there, if he did it be'edim, shashtil, you cannot go to the chas shbad. He doesn't want his properties to be devalued. When it comes to a sale, if I'm going to sell my house, if I plaster boards everywhere, I put advertisements out there that my house is on the market, I'm going to get the best price. So therefore, Adim is good enough. When it comes to selling a house, Adim is good enough because they're going to generate the news that you want, that everybody should know this house is available. It's just by, you don't compare Milva by Adim there, because Dafka trying to keep it as quiet as possible. You wanted Adim there, so you shouldn't be able to refute it, and that's why. And maybe that's why he didn't make a stop. What happens if the father had a chazak for 1 year and then he died? And the Yiddish, the son, took over and he was there for another 2 years, and the Ma'ara was not Moich. Or Ha'av Shtayim, the father was there for 2 years, Ben Shana, or 3 years. It goes as follows: Ha'av Shana, Ben Shana, and then the Ben sold it to Lekeach Shana. We combined the 3 years together because the son is like the father. Yiddish would same like his father, and the Ma'ara can't say, oh, each one it was different. The son and the father are one and the same. And then the sale, we said before, with a star, there's a coil. So you knew that they think that the property is theirs, and then he sold it like a proper property. And if it wasn't, you should have complained. You should have been mad. You didn't. 3 years went by, and they have a tiny, the father bought it. So therefore, they have a good chazak. Remember, the lekech is the kola. So it seems from here that if you buy from a Yiddish, there's a koil. But I'll ask you a question. Rav before was talking about you bought it from another buyer. So therefore, Rav says if you did with a star, there's a koil. Here we're talking about you bought it from a Yiddish, and we're asking whether you buy from a Yiddish. It seems from here there's also a koil. That's what we're saying. The good chazaka. We're going to ask you a question that maybe it's not so. The Gemara, it says, let's somebody's machzik and he ate it. The person who owned the property, the father owned the property, and then and he claimed I bought it for the father. But then what happened was the father died. So he was there he had a chalak for 3 years. He was there the first year when the father was still alive, and the next 2 years he was there when the son, in front of the son, after the father died. Or the same thing as before. Father 1 year, the son 1 year, and then somebody bought it from the son, and he had it a 3rd year. It's considered a chazaka. And the buyer can't say, what do you call it? The buyer can't say get out, because the guy says, look, I'm here 3 years. I bought the property from the father 3 years ago. 3 years went by, nobody was moiche. I lost the shtar. Leave me alone. And nobody was moiche. And now he said his part of his time is, I did not know that you bought the property. If I would have known you bought the property, you're now the new owner. I have to have another 3 years because you're now the new owner. Just because the previous owner didn't protest, but you're a new owner, I have to have the I should have kept the star longer because you're the new owner, and in front of you I was only machzik 1 year, so I should have kept the star. But my argument is I didn't know you bought it. I said, yeah. Now, you just said before that when you buy something, that's a koil. When this person bought the property from the son, that's tantamount to the son making a machah. And if you have to still do it every 3 years, like we learned a few days ago, or this is such a machah, you never have to be meicha again, because the machah is that I sold it to somebody else. So why should I protest and so on? And that was a statement that is no longer yours. Your tiny was that you bought it from Reuben, but Reuben no longer owned it. It belonged now to Shimon. And I sold it to Shimon. So I was meichet to you. I was meichet to Reuben saying, look, it was never yours because I've sold it to Shimon. And you don't tiny that you bought it from Shimon. You tiny you bought it from Reuben. So the Shainim say you don't have to ever give him a mecha again, forevermore. Now, so if Stein has a coil, what's going on here? This is an interesting case where the son sold all the entire estate of his father, many properties there. So Machlei Shem exactly what happened there. Either he took the son Takadinim himself his property to the Loker. Loker was assumed that it's his, and that's why. But others, that's then Pashas. He's not the Balabas. So nobody was Meichel. Who's the Balabas? The son is still the Balabas. Of course, this person who claimed it's his is his. Others say no, he included this field, but because it was including all the fields together, there was no coil about a particular field because we just sold all of his assets. There was no real coil. Coil is when you buy a specific field. Mission. In these cases, there's no chazakah because the person has a right to have it. And if you have a right to have it, the ma'ara can say, there was a meichel because everyone knows you had a right to have it. So, for example, ha'umnan, if you give someone something to a tradesman, or a craftsman to take care of it. Machlekes the Shainim we're talking about here 3 years. Chazakah we're talking about 3 years. Imagine leaving something in the store for 3 years to come and collect. Or these kinds, some chazakahs we learned before is like straight away. You leave it there and nobody leaves something there. Must be that it's other person's. Anyhow, umnin. So the umnin claims that the reason why it's by me is because you didn't. It's mine. I bought it from you. So on the other hand, the Mara says I didn't complain because I gave it to you. I'm the one who gave it to you to fix it, and I'll pick it up and I pick it up. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. What case exactly? Shutfin or partners, and one partner is taking care of one side, has the field for a few years. Oh, I bought it. Again, it's no raya because maybe that's the arrangement we had. That you have it for 4 years, I have it for 4 years. So the fact that you're there proves nothing. On others in the field could be that we make an arrangement. You have it for 6 years, and I have it for 6 years. So the fact that you're there doesn't prove anything. You should keep your stock. But if you talk about it, or all of these cases are cases where the guy had a right to be there, and therefore, if you talk about it, you should keep your staff as evidence. If a woman brings in nifsim and he says, "Oh, I bought it, that's why I'm here all the time." No, you're there because the wife will let you in, and that's your job to take care of the field. The same thing as if she's in the chasa baila, the husband has to give mezainis. So again, no raya that the fact that she's there, if she talk about it, she has to have. They're generally moichel each other. They allow each other to be in their property. So anywhere where you have a right to be there, the Ma'ara can say, I wasn't moichel because I let you be there. It was not as ownership. I let you be there because you're my father. You're my son. All of this is talking about in the case of chazakah. But in the case where, let's say, in front of us, he said, I gave it a matana to somebody and now he wants to change his mind. And I told him, go make a kinyan chazaka. Kinyan chazaka is no part of the slightest thing. And now I'm changing my mind. Or brothers are divided. And now they want to make a split so that we cannot change our mind. Or a machzik ben geir. We know that a geir it has no relatives. Everything is hefker. So I make a chazaka. What's a chazaka? No, the godar or part of the slightest thing. He made a door. You have to not just close the door. You have to make a door, fix the fence, or fix a breach. Koshu, the slightest amount. Hareza chazaka. That's a kinyan, and nobody can change their mind. See you tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem.